How are you, Ken?
I'm well, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing well. So as you are and I are speaking right now, the status of this Manny Machado move is what?
Well, it is not done until they issue a press release saying it's done. I have every reason to believe, as I believed last night when I reported that it's happening, that it's still going to happen. But these are the Orioles, and I guess we just have to wait.
Now, when you say that these are the Orioles and we'll just have to wait, I did see what you wrote in The Athletic. I'm wondering if you could put a little bit more meat on the bones for the audience here on that.
Yeah, I just thought about that. I just thought I probably should explain that. The Orioles have a history of quashing trades and quashing free agent deals over medical concerns. They also have a history of doing odd things in trade talks, and they're not an easy team to deal with. So it's not surprising that this would take a little bit longer. If indeed that is the case, I have no reason to believe at this point, again, that there is anything else going on but reviewing the medicals and doing that kind of thing. But the longer this goes, the more you wonder. It's still fairly early in the day, though, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so the deal would be what, best that you could tell?
I don't know exactly. And my understanding, has been reported by many people, is that a prospect named Yusniel Diaz, a Cuban outfielder, would be the lead piece in the deal coming from Los Angeles to Baltimore. Machado would go, obviously, to the Dodgers and play shortstop. It has been reported the Orioles will receive as many as 5 prospects. I don't know that. I do expect that there is going to be some money exchanged if this goes down, with the Orioles sending some money to help the Dodgers get a little bit more breathing room under the luxury tax. So none of this is confirmed. We'll have to see the exact details, assuming this thing happens. But the Orioles, I expect, will receive a pretty impressive package from Machado, considering that he is just under control for only 2+ months more.
So I guess then that leads to my next question: is trading him now? Why? I mean, is this any better than any deal that, or worse than any deal that they could have had available to them in the offseason when
Well, that's a great question. And they're going to say, no, we didn't get as good an offer in the offseason. I don't know what their exact offers were in the offseason, but if you had acquired Manny Machado in the offseason, you would have got him for a full season and not just a couple of months. So it would stand to reason that they had better offers, but simply weren't ready to move at that time. Now, you could even argue they should have traded him long before that, but last year they thought they were going to contend, and that was why they didn't do it then. So this is the kind of debate that, sure, their fans are going to engage in. Hey, could we have gotten better in December or January than we got right here? Again, we'll have to see what the return ultimately is before making any kind of assessment. And with prospect trades, Rich, you know this, they're really difficult to judge in real time. It takes a while before you really know what's going on.
MLB Network, Fox Sports, The Athletics, Ken Rosenthal here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what does it mean also now in this trade for the Dodgers? Is there any chance in your mind that Machado is more than just a 2-month rental for the Dodgers, and what they would maybe move Seager around, or move Machado around, or move Turner around, or just figure out how to keep them all together?
I don't think it's out of the question that they would try to figure this out. They'd have to see how Machado performs for them, how the rest of the season plays out, what Kershaw does, if he opts out or not. Machado wants to play shortstop. He is not as good a defensive shortstop as Corey Seager, at least by the metrics. Though baseball people suggest that his metrics are worse than he actually is, that he does some things that are better than the numbers show. Whatever. If he's not willing to go to third base for the Dodgers or any other team, then at that point he'd have to make a decision. And if the Dodgers want him at third, okay, we can go play shortstop somewhere else and get the money. He'd probably do that. If they say you can play short, we'll move Seager to third, Turner to first, Muncy is second, do a couple of other things, maybe make a trade or two. There are all kinds of possibilities.
And what was it like in the dugout last night? It was very rare, obviously, that you're in a dugout, A, and B,
yes,
with a player who's already been rumored, or if not reported to have been gone and traded, and C, where they actually are allowed to have a phone in their hand to communicate with an agent or a team or what have you. I mean, what was that like, Ken?
it wasn't quite as dramatic as maybe I thought it was going to be. And I'll explain a couple of things. First, during a game, I am not normally in a dugout, only in the All-Star game.
Right.
And I'm at the end of the dugout, a little cordoned-off area. A normal game, I'm in a camera well outside the dugout. But the All-Star game, because it's a different kind of event, this is how it is done. And we do interview players during the game, and we do it with live mics on the field, and we do it with dugout reporters like Tom Verducci and myself. So I thought it would be kind of dramatic in there, but it really wasn't. He was just playing the game. Now, he did get on the phone at one point. I saw him talking to somebody at one point on the phone. The guys all had their phones. They were videoing each other. You might have heard Joe Buck during the broadcast say at one point, "Don't these guys know this is on TV?"
Right.
But they got a kick out of doing what they were doing. So that was the way it went. But Machado was very even-handed about everything. He certainly knew what was going on. Didn't know details, but knew, of course, he was in the middle of talk about getting traded, and just basically went out and, as he said, tried to have as much fun as he could.
You know, I had the commissioner in my studio yesterday, Ken, and asked him about the shifts, you know, and how it is potentially degrading offense in baseball, and his appetite for passing a rule for it. And while he said he wasn't going to get into rule discussions, he was kind enough to at least delve into this one. He made it seem like he'd like to get rid of this shift. He'd like to figure out what, you know, that baseball, while he doesn't want to get involved in rules about player positioning, man, it just seems like something's got to be done on this front. What do you think? Because I know you had two managers in this All-Star game that love it. And would A.J. Hinch, I asked point blank on this show about a month ago, and he said he would not be happy with any rules passed to get rid of the shift.
Mm-hmm.
Where do things stand in your mind from your position, again?
I don't know that I would say Manfred wants to get rid of the shift. I would say he is certainly open to discussing ways to make the game better, and that's an all-encompassing look. And people say, big deal, the game's fine. I don't know that the game is fine. The game has become a home run, strikeout, walk fest, and the game has basically turned into an analytics-driven device to be as efficient as possible. If you are the general manager or manager of a baseball team and you're implementing these things, you're doing exactly the right thing because you're trying to win. Trying to win is not the same as putting out a good entertainment product. And while last night's game was entertaining in a sense with all the home runs, 10 of them, I don't know. I like triples. I like doubles. I like all these things. Now, to get back to your question, get rid of shifts would be a dramatic step, but there are lesser steps that you could take, maybe forcing all infielders to stay on the dirt. That would be one way to do it. Keep your feet on the dirt or 1 foot on the dirt so you're not playing short right field, taking hits away like that. Those are things that I would expect would get more consideration than perhaps an outright ban of shifts. I don't know that that's healthy. But at the same time, everyone expected the hitters to adjust. Oh, they'll adjust. The game is organic. It just ebbs and flows. No. It's been about 10 years now. It hasn't adjusted, and the hitters have not adjusted. So that's why they've got to look closer.
So last one for you, Ken Rosenthal. I'm assuming, I guess last two. One, Machado took off a Baltimore Orioles uniform for the last time last night, correct?
I'd be shocked if he was in a Baltimore uniform again.
Okay.
Shocked.
And then, so now who's next? Who's the big name? What do you got for me with the trade deadline 2 weeks away and so many other teams?
The biggest name is Jacob deGrom, but no one in the industry seriously thinks he's going to get traded. After that, it's not a great group of players, to be perfectly honest, that are available. It's kind of mediocre names, average players. Jay Happ, for instance, is a good example. Now, he was an all-star. He was the Blue Jays all-star. He's a good left-handed pitcher. Is he Cliff Lee from a few years back? No, he's not that guy. So that is kind of what we're looking at. But I will say this, Rich. Every year at the deadline, we get our heads spun. We get turned around. Things happen that no one anticipated or predicted. So I would expect it's going to be active. It's always active. And I would expect we're going to be surprised by at least one name simply because of the history of the trade deadline. That is generally what happens.
Ken, appreciate the time. Thanks for calling. I know you probably just got off a plane back here from D.C. To be on MLB Network all day. So thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich. Take care.
You got it. That's Ken Rosenthal at Ken_Rosenthal on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.